Hey guys, welcome back to DR Sports for another Transfer Live at 5. Today with myself, AGT, and we've got Big Laurie in the building. How are we, fella?
I'm here, man. I'm here. How are you? I've not seen you for a while. Obviously, I know the circumstances behind that, and we spoke off camera, and I welcome you back, obviously.
Thank you.
And,
appreciate it.
Thoughts are with you, and obviously, Diego Jota's family, friends, everyone associated with him, the whole Liverpool family.
Thank you.
Just thought I'd say that to start
We
off.
appreciate it. And yeah, you're right. You know, it's my first time back since the news on DR Sports. I did a video on the COP TV, but I haven't done one since. Obviously, as soon as I finished up here, I went up to Liverpool and laid some flowers down and paid my respects, wrote a little message, and you know, instantly just burst out into tears, as everyone else was around there. It was such an emotional thing to have to go and see, and it didn't feel real at all. But yeah, no, obviously, you know, thanks to the guys behind the camera, the team you don't see, for their support and, you know, allowing me a little bit more time to digest, or try to digest what's happened. Obviously, we've got the picture of Diogo to my right shoulder there, which is a lovely touch from the studio. So I thank DR Sports for allowing me to have that bit of time. And if I'm honest, I still, Laurie, if you know me, I'm always honest with you. We have a lot of honest chats, and I still don't feel ready, to be honest, to go back into it and talk about it all. But that's just me being honest. But listen, I've got to do my job, and you know, I love doing it. I'm very lucky to do so. So once again, my deepest, most sincerest thoughts go out to the family of Diogo and Andre Silva. We will never forget them. It's impossible to move on and forget. But I'm sure, as they have shown already, the class that Liverpool Football Club, Wolves, you know, all the tributes that have gone in from around the world, I'm sure Liverpool will do their utmost, and they will do the right thing by honouring him in the most special way possible, I can imagine. There's already murals going up, and, you know, obviously I go to Hong Kong in a couple of weeks for pre-season, and I'm sure whatever the club do will be emotional again, and, you know, obviously we'll never forget him. So you never walk alone to both of you, Andre and Diogo, and yeah,
well
again,
said, man.
RIP.
That's a fitting tribute. Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Let's crack on. Newcastle United, they are after agreeing a £55 million fee with Nottingham Forest for Elanga. This one has started and stalled and maybe started again, and because of the work that Forest seem to be doing themselves in the window, I guess Anthony Elanga has been told that, listen, if the right fee comes in, you will be allowed to go. And he's definitely looking to be joining a very exciting project at Newcastle. But for Forest, do you think, I mean, obviously the fans won't want him to go at all.
No.
But do you think he himself definitely thought about staying at Forest because of the incredible season that he's had? Obviously they're in Europe. But is it just, well, I love Forest and they're great and we've had a great time, but this is a level above for me? And obviously he has come from United, so, you know, there's pedigree there.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, everything you said there is correct. I mean, I think sometimes it's a bit of a double-edged sword success, isn't it? Because the byproduct, that's Nottingham Forest I'm talking about, the byproduct of being successful is that the so-called bigger clubs are going to start headhunting your better players. And we've seen with the likes of Elanga, apparently people have got their eyes on Morgan Gibbs-White, one or two other players. So there is that risk of losing them. I would imagine that Forest would have a plan. They're looking to bring in players. But for Newcastle, that is a really good signing. Elanga, we all know, very, very quick. Said to be the quickest player over 100 metres in the Premier League.
10.63 seconds. I saw a clip earlier.
Amazing.
I mean, that's like, if you did that at the Olympics,
it's almost...
You might even get a podium.
Might get will definitely get you through the qualifying rounds anyway.
100%.
And Elanga, listen, man, he's not just quick. He's got talent. Good footballer, Swedish international, was at Man United. I was a little bit surprised when Man United let him go. I know he hadn't, excelled there, but he's, you know what I mean? I was a little bit surprised.
They're a little bit hasty in terms of if they'd have kept him and nurtured him and allowed him to shine, maybe they could be looking at what Newcastle are looking at right now.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a little bit of a Sweden a Swedish touch to this one. Obviously, he can go and play with his countryman, Alexander Isak, at Newcastle, and that would be a frightening duo. I mean, the pace on them two is devastating, isn't it?
Yeah. Because that's the one thing, isn't it, that Jacob Murphy, who had a good season, by the way, shout out to him.
Doesn't get
That's
enough
the one
credit,
thing that
Jacob
he
Murphy
lacks, they say, isn't it? He's not the quickest. And in the Premier League, obviously, having pace is a real thing.
Commodity, isn't it?
Yeah. So listen, man, he will only enhance what Newcastle have got. I think for them it's an excellent signing. It's definitely a bit of a blow for Forest because it's not going to be easy to replace. So listen, man, I think that's a great signing. I don't know about you, but I think that is... if I'm a Newcastle fan, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what your boy Matt says.
Yeah, Matty's probably buzzing with this one, 55 mil. I think he was frustrated at the time, as all Newcastle fans were, with the first bid being rejected. Obviously, Cunha's rejected them, and Buemo's rejected them as well. So this comes a timely boost, actually, for the Toon. And BBC Sports say the deal could be completed this week. They're seeking to strengthen their attacking options as they prepare to return to the Champions League following that 5th place Premier League finish last season. Scored 6, 11 assists as well. Very, very respectable numbers.
That's one thing I would say, though. For a guy of his talent, I think he should get more goals.
Yeah.
His finishing is not always as good as it might be. But in terms of his ability as a player, the speed, obviously, we spoke about, I also think he's got a very good attitude. And I think he'll be a welcome addition to the Newcastle squad for sure.
Yeah, I think when you look at the attributes, very quick, you know, naturally, amazing on the counter-attack. We already know what Newcastle are like on the counter-attack from defending corners or set pieces. But I think it's that big club experience. I know he hasn't flourished at Manchester United, and they did move him on for a good fee. But if, like I said, if they'd have just shined that diamond a little bit more, this is what they could be seeing. But because he's been at a big club, and he, like you say, he is almost the perfect athlete. You know, he eats well, he's in tip-top shape, can run 10.3 seconds, 100 metres. Do you think that big club almost upbringing, that pedigree, has made him think about the situation and go, I do believe that this is a step in the right direction?
I definitely think that.
And do you think that even after a few years at Newcastle, if he does well, could he be looking again to maybe even go a step further, with all due respect?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, how old is he now?
23.
23. So he's not hit his physical peak yet. Well, it wouldn't appear so. So yeah, and like I said, the
just turned 23
and one
as well,
thing I
by
would
the
say
way.
as well about the pace.
Just turned 23, Laurie. So
that's very
time
young.
is on his hands.
Definitely. So he's only going to get better, I would have thought. And with Eddie Howe, he's got a very good manager there. We know he's good at developing players. And the one thing I would say as well about Elanga's pace is not just, and people need to distinguish this, it's not just having the pace. He's got what I call explosive pace, which means off the mark. You know, some players, they're quick, but it takes them a while to get up to optimum speed.
Yeah, like your old car.
Is explosive.
0 to 60 in 15 seconds.
That's the way I drive, man. Well, when you've had as many points as I've had over the Anyway, that's for another. That's for another stage.
No, I know what you mean in terms of that first 10 yards.
Yeah, and that gets you away from players.
If you're a defender, you're trying to grab him. Look, there's not much you can do if he flies past. He's like the road runner.
That ball goes over the top.
He's gone, mate.
He's left them. You know what I mean? And I've seen him do that a few times last season with Forest, and they can't catch him.
No, they can't.
So having that explosiveness to get away from the defender is crucial.
If you're Forest, who are you looking at to replace him with? Do you go within the league, or do you look further afield? I mean, they are playing European football, so it is a pull. Massive club historically, Forest, as we know, but 55 mil in the bank, and they want to be serious and actually qualify for the Champions League this year. Would he have stayed if Forest got Champions League, which they were in the driving seat for how long? For months.
Yeah. That definitely would have helped. I still think, though, given the two options, no disrespect to Forest, they are a big club, but I do think that Newcastle are just that little bit bigger. I mean, Newcastle are one of those clubs. I mean, they won a trophy.
Because Forest have got 2 European Cups, and I'm not saying it's one or the other. I'm proposing the question.
Yeah.
I mean, Forest 2 European Cups.
Yes, that's true. But obviously, the criteria for big clubs is trophies, it's fan base.
Yeah.
It's legacy, it's, there's all different elements to it. But I think most neutral observers would say that Newcastle are a bigger club than Forest. I mean, Newcastle, they're a one-city club, and their fan base is ridiculous, and they've got that aura about them, haven't they, Newcastle? And now that they won that trophy last season, you get the feeling that they will be thinking that they're not that far away from the real big boys. Mm-hmm. And they can attract players, the likes of Elanga, get more trophies, get more European football. They'll be right there, man.
I'm just thinking which winger they could look for, because he's obviously a right-sided winger, isn't he?
Primarily, yeah.
Which is actually a bit of a throwback, having a right-footed.
Yeah,
even though he has scored goals with his left foot as well. Who could
a replacement for Forest?
Yeah. With that kind of cash in the bank as well.
Because
then that means gets left behind by Arsenal, then maybe. But
no, I'm saying, look, you could take him, man. No, joke.
Actually, let's ask the chat. Who should Forest be looking to replace Anthony Elanga with? 55 million quid in the bank. Obviously, they want to push now and maintain. I can't say maintain because they didn't finish in the Champions League in the end, but they were in it for 75% of the race. To get back into that top 5, they do need to spend that money, in my opinion, on a winger that can get you.
But I think it's important for people to understand, though, right, that Forest last season, even in finishing where they did, they overachieved. Some people might look at it and say it was disappointing. Okay, they kind of faltered at the end, didn't they? They kind of ran out of juice at the end. Yeah. But to finish where they finished, no one foresaw that at the start of the season. So that's immense credit to the team and to Nuno.
But they are still being backed as if they did get in the Champions League, you know, in terms of what the money that they're going to spend. And obviously they've got to bring some money in. Do you think this is a little bit of a PSR throw as well in terms of let's get this in?
But I do think, though, knowing the way Forest operate, I'll be surprised if they went outright for a Premier League player. What I reckon they'll do, they've got a good scouting system, and their networks will try and
Murillo, Milenkovic.
Yeah.
So you're right, actually.
Scout those, far-flung regions.
South American leagues.
South America.
They like it out there.
And places like that.
Brian Gill in the chat, Sancho, Iwobi, Adama Traore, Timothy Weah, who obviously they did go for, and I think he has turned them down, or maybe the clubs haven't been able to agree a fee.
I don't think Sancho's the type of player, with respect, they're looking for. They'll be looking for a young guy.
Johan Bakayoko, they're talking about.
Oh, okay, that's a good look. Hopefully somebody young, raw, hungry, with the right attitude, because Nuno's a no-nonsense type of manager.
Yeah, you can't mess
around.
Which
is why I don't think Sancho would work there, to be honest.
Garnacho?
No, I don't think that's Nuno's type of player.
Reece Nelson?
It's possible, but he's had a lot of injuries that might count against him.
Harvey Elliott? These are all names that are coming into the chat.
Harvey Elliott might be a good
Lookman, Malik Fofana. No one wants Garnacho, says Ganto as well.
Elliott, would Harvey Elliott see that as a bit of a step down?
Yeah, of course, he wouldn't do that.
He would,
if you've turned down Brighton, I think you would probably turn down Forest, but I still think we keep hold of him. And, even to think about transfers at the minute, for me, it just
it's kind of
wrecks
weird,
my head.
Yeah.
I know football is such a brutal business, and it's so cold-hearted in a lot of ways, and so immersing and bringing together in other ways, but I think in this sense it's too soon for me to think about that. And I think obviously I've seen the video of Luis Diaz. He actually says he's happy at Liverpool. I know there's obviously big links that he's agreed to deal with Bayern Munich and Barca, but I think he needs to come back and and almost be with all the players first before.
Can I just ask you on that? And I don't want to, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I know it's fairly sensitive. But what did you make of him not attending the funeral?
Everyone's got their own way of grieving. Whatever he had planned, not instead of the funeral, but maybe at the time of the funeral, was obviously planned in advance. And yeah, he wasn't there, Ronaldo wasn't there, but I'm in no position to judge how another man should grieve. Yeah, it was an incredible show of togetherness and family from even the likes of Pep Linders, and James Milner was there, and it was incredible to see that, and heartbreaking at the same time. Totally didn't feel surreal watching the boys in black suits heading into a funeral. But I have no feelings towards the players who weren't there, because
I just thought
it's not my business to.
I mean, it's not for me to say either. I just wondered what you felt.
No, it's a valid question, I think. But staying on Newcastle, And again, the link to Liverpool there is Mark Guehi, who's still, after allegedly agreeing a 5-year deal on personal terms with Liverpool, Newcastle still remain hopeful of winning the race to sign him. Again, the Champions League squad next season, Callum Wilson's just gone. They need bodies through the door. With the addition of the England and Crystal Palace centre-back. With Guehi, I almost feel like Newcastle and him obviously were outwardly flirting, let's say, in the last transfer window, where Newcastle were trying to snatch him for 70 odd, I think Palace wanted, and there is that 20% Chelsea sell-on clause as well in this fee, by the way. So that's why Palace are almost playing the long game. Liverpool, you might have agreed terms with them, but let's see how much Newcastle have got. They're almost shopping him around a bit. Because of that former, what can I call it, chats, because it didn't really lead to him signing, but those chats that were between Guehi's reps and Newcastle, do you think that will actually help them or hinder them with the club now looking to go back in for him?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it also could have some bearing on what Konate does, because there's been talk that he's been a little unsettled and that there's issues around his contract. Is he into his last year? He's not signed yet?
2 years left.
2 years.
Sorry. I think it's, next year will be the last year.
Yeah, so...
2026.
Presumably Liverpool want some closure on that.
Yeah.
But whilst he's not signed, you can see why Newcastle, will be upping the ante, and why Guehi might be thinking, well, let's see what's happening. You know what I mean?
Where do you think he wants to go now?
I think if he... I think it's more likely that he'll go to Newcastle. But
Really?
I can see why he would...
But where does he want to go the most?
Yeah, if Liverpool come in for you, then it's going to be Liverpool.
Yeah.
But, the Newcastle one is an interesting proposition, because if he goes to Liverpool, he's not guaranteed a first-team place. Not to say that he's absolutely guaranteed first-team place at Newcastle, but you know what I'm saying? It's more likely that he'll get regular football with Newcastle than he would with Liverpool. So, if you're Mark Guehi, man, it's an interesting situation.
It is. Let us know in the comments how you think this one ends, because, like I said, Liverpool are in the race for sure. They've obviously agreed a deal 5-year. But if Newcastle come back into the chat and offer a little bit more money and outbid Liverpool, they'll obviously know and have their inside sources telling them how much Liverpool... Because what you don't want to do if you're Newcastle is almost put your cards down on the table and say, well... There's 65 and it totally blows out Liverpool, who are probably prepared to do 55, and you've just basically spent 10 million there extra that you didn't need to. But
I think one thing's becoming increasingly clear, that Guehi will not be a Palace player.
No, he has to go. Yeah. They need to sell him.
Yeah, and he's in quite a good position, because let's face it, with respect to Palace, both of those clubs are bigger than Palace, and
but they have to, and Eze, because they're both going for free next year anyway, so they have to sell them this summer, which is sad really, because when you think of that team that made history and won that trophy, they're not going to stay together throughout the European campaign, which I can't wait to see. By the way, I cannot wait to see Crystal Palace in Europe. I think that's going to be special. So it is a shame.
Although
that
we don't know what European competition it will be yet, do we?
Well, that's it.
Because there is some conjecture surrounding that. We'd like to think it's the Europa League. I hope it is.
I hope it's the Europa League. Come on, it's got to be. Big up to Palace, but they will be looking to sell captain, leader legend Mark Guehi, with the club looking to bolster their squad with the addition of the centre-back, who, let's face it, could walk into maybe 15 or 16 teams in the league.
Yeah, I would say.
Maybe England's best centre-back at the minute.
Yeah.
At 24 as well. Long way to go.
Leader as well. Leadership qualities.
Yeah. Staying on Newcastle, who seem to be the talk of the tune at the minute.
I like it.
Get that?
I like it.
That's for you, Matty lad. They've also held fresh talks with DCL. You know who I'm talking about? Dominic Calvert-Lewin, obviously. The 28-year-old Eddie Howe is a long-term admirer of the England striker, who did leave Everton on a free after his contract expired this summer. He's getting interest kind of all over the place, and on paper you think, well, yeah, he is a Premier League striker, he's 28, he's played for England, yes, he should be being courted by clubs, he should be. But when you look at that, and you can't talk about DCL without talking about the injury record.
Yeah.
I mean, is this let's take a gamble on him one?
Oh, it's a massive gamble.
Or is it let's have him in as a backup, but even then, can he back up the striker if he isn't fit? I would imagine any club that's bringing him in, surely they're bringing him in as a second striker, aren't they? But he wouldn't want that. He's 28. He wants to be the main man.
He wants to, but you'd have to accept that with his injury record. I mean, that is why Everton were pretty keen to, get him off their books.
Big earner as well at Everton.
Yeah, exactly. So he will know what time it is. You know what I mean?
I think, he will know what time it is. The harsh reality of it is, if Newcastle bring him in, it's to play behind Alexander Isak. There's no way you are usurping him unless he is injured. Yeah. Even however
with respect,
hot a streak of form
even
you're in.
Dominic Lewin in his prime would be number 2 to Isak.
But if you're DCL, you're 28, you sit down with your reps, your agents, and you go, look, the winner mentality in me as a professional footballer is to say, I'm not going somewhere to be a second choice. Like, I want to go and be that main man, maybe even sneak into the World Cup squad. You never know what his ambitions as a player might be.
I think also a better approach might be to humble myself and say, look, I know I've had a indifferent injury record, to say the least. However, I'm going to do my best, be professional, get myself into fantastic shape and fight for my place. I think the approach being, listen, man, I want to kick the door down and be number one might not be the best approach. Humble yourself and say, look, prepared to take a wage cut. I'm here to play football. I'm a true professional. I want to fight for my place in the team.
Yeah, because at Everton, I think there was a couple of seasons where obviously he gets himself into the England squad and does well, but these injuries, I know you can't help them, right? But how unlucky has he been?
He's been very unlucky.
When you talk about injuries.
I mean, there was a time when Arsenal was said to be looking at him.
Yeah. Do you think there's almost like, how can I say it? Maybe because he's English, he's 6'2", he's a big target man almost.
Yeah, he's an athlete, man.
Do you almost not get excited by that type of player? Because when those links did happen to Arsenal, there was a lot of underwhelming feelings around it. Do you think he almost gets dismissed a little bit? Because, I mean, he scored 4 goals in 11 games for England. It's not the worst record ever. It's
Do
really
you remember
good.
when a few years back now, he had a really horrible season, didn't he, where he couldn't hit a barn door, right? And then he went on this really big run, and that's what started attracting interest from other clubs. And he got into the England team.
In 2021, Laurie, 21 goals in all comps in 39 games. That's a 1 in 2 record. That is the absolute bar for any striker. Finish your career with a 1 in 2 record, you'll be remembered forever.
That's great stuff.
I mean, 15 as well before that in the season before that, but then 5, 2, 8 and 3 since that. What does that tell you?
And I remember listening to an interview he gave with one of the radio stations, of which it's not important to name, in which he was talking about how he was developing his career. So there were certain aspects. I remember him saying how he'd worked on his heading and, he'd done a lot of training to develop his game. So he looks like a really good pro. But then the injuries came into effect, and obviously that's had a big, it's detracted on his career. But if you could get him fit, or if you could get himself fit and, have a run of games, he's an asset. But it's like I said, it's canny. And what you tend to find with players when they're picking up a lot of these injuries, especially like soft tissue injuries and that, they very rarely go away, do they? The kind of injuries that he's had, I can point to very few examples where the player has kind of beat it like that. There's always going to be that danger of the injury reoccurring. So
it's a knee injury as well. Right, it was a bad knee injury, and then it was hamstrings. And he's obviously had a lot of, different injuries, and I've got them here. Hamstring, ankle, cheekbone, I remember when he did that. Hamstring, knee, hamstring, toe, hamstring, muscle, and back.
See how many times you said hamstring, and that's the old soft tissue stuff.
And that's once your hamstrings, commodity, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, it's funny you say that, is the strikers most lethal weapon, I guess, the hamstring, right, when it works. But I remember Michael Owen obviously burst onto the scene in '97, goes to the World Cup, comes back, and Liverpool go away to Leeds in November 1999. I might be wrong, and I think they lost the game.
Was that World Cup '98? You mean?
Yeah, but this is him coming off the back. This is the season after now, when he's established now as a Liverpool centre forward.
Oh, okay, right,
Owen
right,
is,
right.
and he tears his hamstring away at Leeds, and he, in his book, which I read years later, I mean, let's not forget at that stage he was still maybe 19, tearing up the world. 2 years later he wins a Ballon d'Or, but he said in his book, there was part of me, sadly, that in my mind, and yourself as a striker, when as soon as you feel that go, your confidence decreases, you have less, you get fatigued, you have less enthusiasm for the game. He said that he basically semi-retired after that tear because it never healed again. And he used to say famously that for warm-ups in Premier League games, he'd see Gerrard pinging these 60-yarders across the pitch. He just did nothing, because he's like, if I go a bit in training and pull it again, I'm done. So even at 19, as a striker who's on top of the world, if you tear your hamstring, it's so difficult to come back. And I do have a lot of sympathy, because I'm looking at the hamstrings, and the days add up, and the months add up, and the years add up. He's missed 29 games 2 seasons ago, missed 15 last season. So
well, in my family, right, in my extended family, there's got a couple of my cousins and that are athletes. A couple of them are sprinters, and sometimes they'll tell you that for training they'll spend literally an hour warming up for that reason, because the hamstrings is such a delicate area of the body.
Race, if you're lucky.
Yeah, because if that goes once badly, there's always a danger that it can reoccur, and it's unlike any other injury that you get. You can't solidify that. You know what I mean?
Also knees as well. Knees are very complicated. And Van Dijk, for his ACL to come back like he has. We had a sprinter in our school, Jody Williams, who ran for Team GB and still does. And we all were gathered around the TV once. I think it was the under-18s to qualify for the London 2012.
Right.
And we were all watching it on the TV, and she pulled a hamstring with about 10 metres to go. And honestly, it was the most gruesome thing to watch, like knowing someone that that just popped.
And so it's very painful as well.
Oh yeah,
excruciating.
I'm lucky, actually, touch wood, I've never actually had that injury.
Well, we're not quick enough to
my stuff is more like ankles and knees and stuff.
And then you got to remember as well, I don't need to tell you, but football, especially in the Premier League, is such a physically robust game. The amount of games you play, the intensity of those games, and the physicality. Yeah, you're prone. The likelihood of getting injured.
And also, as a striker, you're making so many maybe quick, fast twitch movements to maybe beat the defender, or that you might not even get the ball. Yeah, they might just play it inside and not look for that channel pass. But there's so many moments where you have to be ready to go, and if your hamstring,
you may have observed, right? You see, I know we're kind of digressing. I don't want to take it too far off transfers, but you may have observed. I'm sure you have. When you see a lot of players in the gym these days and they're doing weights, what they're doing light weights, but what they're doing, they're strengthening those core muscles to avoid injury. That's what they're actually doing. So people see them in the gym and say, why are you lifting more weight?
More weight.
No, what they're doing is they're strengthening those muscles to avoid injury, or to make them less susceptible to injury.
That's it. Very good. Very good.
It's
Physio Laurie.
Well, I'm a qualified PT, man. Did you know that?
I think I did, I think I did. Big up.
So, anyway.
Shout out to Juno, Super Chat, says, AGT, welcome back, you salchicha. And that's how I want it to be, because
man,
there's a nice, words there saying welcome back, but you sausage, it just, it kind of makes things go back to normal.
That's when
bit,
you're coming back, man. When
that's it.
Stuff like
hey, AGT, did Abby ever cheat on tests at school? No, but I did. And it didn't help. Must have been writing the wrong things down. But yeah, big up to everyone in the chat that's shown support and that have done through, and big up to Flex as well, by the way. I've got to say that, because his piece on TalkSport with Hugh was incredible.
Yeah, I listened to that. You know what? I was actually
really
on my way to the gym. That was on a Friday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I was in the car, and when he said what he said, some guy immediately rang up. I was in my car
and cried. And
the guy was saying, look, you know what? Because Flex was saying things like what happened with Jota shows you the value of, trying to live your life and being with family
sure.
and stuff like that. And he was saying, reach out to people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is obviously is great advice. And then a guy rang in and he said, look, man, you know what I mean? I've got to admit, I was touched when I heard what you said. He goes, I had a relationship with somebody. Was it his son?
Yeah, I think it
somebody
was
in his family. He goes, having heard what you said, I'm in tears. I'm going to reach out to my son. And yeah, that was good. That was cool, man.
Big up. And Robbie's tribute, you know, Matisse phoned me up. You know, it's just in those moments you really know like who's there for you and who supports you.
For real, man.
And I've been doing the same with all my Liverpool connections and making sure everyone's
Liverpool
all right.
Been through it, haven't they, recently? I mean, it weren't that long ago we had those
tragedies,
horrific events outside the stadium. We've had obviously the 96 and
do you know what people say? Liverpool fans are emotional or sensitive or whatnot, but there's that famous quote that has been rubbished in the past, but we believe it to be true, is it means more. And it's not a shot at everyone else, it's just how we feel as fans. It's like when we do win a league, it feels so much more emotional because of all these tragedies that the club has faced and the adversity that the city and the people and the club has faced in the past. So when we do win, it does feel like more. It does. I feel like it means more for those reasons because of what the club has been through. And if Liverpool,
I think what you see with Liverpool as well, they seem like a very, although it's a big club, they're also a close-knit family. It's like a family.
And that's what I mean about you know, Diaz coming back to be with the squad. I think there's going to be such togetherness, and you're right, you know, it can spur on greatness, that those adversities, but there have been a lot of tragedies in the past. There's so many people to remember that aren't with us anymore, and we do it for them. And you know, I definitely dedicate this show to Diogo and Andre for sure, but also anything that we do in the future is now for them. They are eternally with us, and Diogo will always be a Liverpool player now.
Oh, absolutely.
And the number will be retired, the family will be looked after for life. And although it's so horrific and gruesome what happened, the support that they will now get forever from everyone is overwhelming. So I know we keep going back to it, but
no, but you know what I would say finally on
it.
that is, if there's any club in this country that knows how to deal with it and deals with it in the right way, it's Liverpool.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And listen, there's other clubs that have had tragedies, and I think when these things do happen, you put yourself in their shoes, and the whole footballing world puts their arm around you, no matter what team you support. So every club that's had a tragedy, you know, it's in here and it never leaves you, and
absolutely,
it's so heartbreaking but so special, and brings you so much joy when things do go well and you remember them people. So anyway, once again, rest in peace to Diogo Jota and Andre Silva. Shout out to Jack Grealish. Shout him out. Tottenham, Newcastle, Napoli, all monitoring Jack Grealish after City set the asking price, by the way, for 40 mil. I had to read that twice then, because I was thinking, hang on, 3-4 years ago he was 100 mil. Now it's 40 mil, and by the way, that's, you might even have to come down from that. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That might be like the top end.
Because listen, other clubs will read that as, look, they're trying to offload him. That's like car boot sale stuff, without wishing to be too disrespectful. So you're right, they may well even have to drop that, because it seems like they're desperate to get rid of him. Pep's on the record as saying he prefers to work with small squads. You can't have a player, well, you don't want to have a player like Grealish just languishing on the bench, not doing anything. And obviously, he is an asset of sorts, a depreciated asset, but still an asset. So it's in City's interest and in the players' interest for him to find a new club as soon as possible. I must say, though, and again, I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but I don't see Grealish going to Napoli. I do see him staying in this country. I just see...
Because it could end up two ways. It could end up... It could be like Gaza at Lazio.
Yeah.
Or it could be like Tomori at AC Milan, wins the league.
You know what I was thinking that might be an idea for him? I don't know what you think, but going north of the border, Celtic or Rangers as well.
Oh.
To find himself again?
Knowing, because I actually know his family, because I used to go to uni with his brother Kev Grealish, and I was actually at the first ever game where he scored his professional goal against Gillingham. He was playing for Notts County. I saw it, and I know his family, they would definitely choose Celtic.
Yeah, because he's Irish, right?
Yeah.
So he's got the...
Yeah, and Catholic as well. So, yeah.
So what do you think about...
The Napoli one, though, interests me a little bit because
he'll be going
of the
to
fact
a really good club.
that he'll be going back to play with Kevin De Bruyne. That's one thing, and almost De Bruyne could maybe rein him in a little bit if he finds himself drinking a bit too much grappa out there, because he's obviously that calming influence around players. But also, if Nunez ends up there, which again, with what's happened, we still can't ever know what's going to happen. But let's say, for example, hypothetically, Nunez goes there, they're starting to build a squad that can not only... yes, be the champions, but also try and retain it as well. And I think if they get Grealish, that's a very Napoli signing for me. I think he could well
work
end
for
up
McTominay,
at Napoli.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There you go, McTominay, and look at the fun
But
he's
with
having
respect,
out
I
there.
think McTominay was in a slightly different... I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, and I don't want people
Probably
to
gonna
quote me
go
on this,
both
but he's
for a
at a
similar
pretty
price.
low ebb right now. At least when McTominay was there, he was seen as surplus to
mentally.
requirements at Man United, but he was still a Scottish international. Everybody knew he was a good player, athletically very gifted. I think at the moment, Grealish is at a fairly low ebb. I'm not sure if he would get in that Napoli team right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
think-
need someone to replace Kvaratskhelia, who obviously went to PSG in January. And they have replaced him different ways, because look at the goal. I mean, Lukaku's been good for them as well. So I can see it, though. I can see it.
Yeah,
it's a good
it's not beyond the realms.
opportunity for him to, because let's face it, mentally he's on the floor right now.
Exactly.
He's been shunned from the team. That I would never say that he's nailed down a place in the 4 years he's been there, if I'm honest. But this is an opportunity to get yourself off the floor, go and try and win the league and retain the league with Napoli. Try to get yourself back in that World Cup squad, by the way, because that's not going to be easy if you're not playing for City, for sure. And just reset, try a new culture, get immersed in it, not too immersed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's a great opportunity for him to go, right, I'm blocking out the haters that are in England. The media want to kill me all the time, and he does give them a lot of ammo to do so, by the way. But on the other hand, he is an amazing person, what I've heard, when he's around the place. So I think great opportunity.
Do you think that, knowing Grealish that we do, I mean, listen, I don't know him, but based on what we appear to know about him, do you think he's the kind of guy that's going to immerse himself in Italian culture, learn their language, and just reinvent
himself? It would
himself?
impress so many people if he did.
He
I know
would.
we've joked about it, but if he could do what Trent did and in his first press conference go full Italian, that would be an incredible... Do you know what? It's not about you must learn the language in 6 weeks. It's more the gesture to the people of that culture. If you go there and in your first press conference, you maybe not fluently like Trent, and there were still a couple of holes in Trent's actual grammar in that monologue. But if you go there and really immerse yourself and go, look, I'm going to try, because it's a gesture. It's better than not trying. Show them that you're really lucky to be there. I think they could love him out there. I do think he could, look what they've done with Scott McTominay. They've immortalised him already.
But I think
he's got shrines all over the city.
McTominay's starting position there was a little bit higher. I think, although what you're saying is feasible, I think what is far more workable is for, again, I'm going to use the word, Jack Grealish may have to humble himself and say,
again,
look,
another name that would have to do
humble
that.
himself and say, look, okay, I might have to take a club that is not amongst the top clubs in Europe, but it's an opportunity for me to get fit, get my mind right, play regular football.
And they'll adore
build
him,
myself up
Laurie.
again.
If he has a few good games and shows them what he's about, they
he's a
will
talented
adore
player.
him.
So you don't think
out
north
there.
of the border would work? Say you played at Celtics, because we've established...
Again, they would absolutely adore him
Exactly.
there. But with all due respect to Celtic, who still are a Champions League team, still are the biggest team in Scotland, by the way, I do think at this stage of his career, at 28, you got to go somewhere in Europe. I know Scotland is in Europe, but you know what I mean? You've got to find, at least try and get to one of the top clubs in Europe.
No,
And
but what
again,
I'm saying, if he does a couple of years at Celtic, shows the world that, look,
I think it's the other way around. I think it's the other way around. I think it's try and get a top European club and then do a couple of years at Celtic at 32. But he did it the other way around.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
And Grealish isn't 23.
No.
He's 29 now.
But I think he needs regular see, the thing is, if he goes to Napoli, I'm not sure if he breaks into that first team. Certainly not immediately. Whereas if he went, with respect, if he went to Celtic, I think he's more likely to get more game time because he needs to be playing football, man. We were almost forgetting how good this guy is.
We are.
Get himself back playing football. Being in Scotland, he would be on our screens every week. Obviously, that will help in terms of getting his England place back.
Can you imagine him in an Old Firm derby? Rangers lot would kick him all over the place with his hairband in.
But first and foremost, it is down to him, innit? He needs to, I mean, it's no secret that he likes a drink and he likes to enjoy himself. Clearly. He's going to have to adopt a different approach at this stage of his career, cut out certain, as Bobby Robson once famously said, his refueling strategies.
Yeah.
Knuckle down, get himself back into shape, come with a new attitude. Like I said, humble yourself. You know, like I said, you may have to drop down a couple of levels and build yourself back up.
Tottenham or Newcastle?
The talent is there.
Tottenham or Newcastle? Could he go? I mean, if he goes London and goes Tottenham, is there a worry that he's never lived in London before he gets a bit? And what I don't think we should do is almost stereotype him as, oh, he's that guy, you got to keep an eye on him, because he has shown moments of brilliance. But I do think with the tabloids that have followed him around in the past, he does need to go to a club where he locks in and not changes, because you can't change your past, but almost forces the narrative of himself to be, I am taking this seriously, I'm knuckling down, like you say, I'm going to get in that World Cup squad, and whichever team I do go to, I will make sure that, you know, I am putting up numbers that get me in that squad.
Would he start for them? I think he needs to go to a club where there's a good chance he's going to
Villa?
start.
Could he go back to Villa? I mean, wages.
I think that ship sailed.
Yeah,
I think I don't think Unai would look at him right now.
Okay. No, I agree. Just throwing it out there.
But yeah, if he can humble himself, get himself in shape both physically and mentally, take on a new challenge.
West Ham?
No, I don't think London's a good idea for him, man. I really
Stay out of London.
Yeah. London is a goldfish bowl.
Go to Peterborough. Yeah, all due respect, Jack. Big up.
Even Newcastle is not exactly a shrinking violet, is it?
Matty Renton would be showing him the best places to go to.
Neither is Glasgow. But what I'm saying is, I think somewhere like Celtic, he would get regular football. The fans would love him.
It's a good shout, you know. I'm not against it.
The Irish connection. I think that is you know what I mean?
I'm not totally against it. I'll be honest with you.
I think that might work. That might be a better look than Napoli.
We're going to ask you in the chat as well, where will Jack Grealish end up? Napoli rumours, obviously Tottenham and Newcastle there as well. But could it be somewhere outside of that? Let us know. Chuck a few random names. Here's one for you. Fenerbahce, Jose Mourinho. Have a bit of that, son. Yeah. Jack Grealish in the Istanbul derby.
You couldn't ask for a more passionate set of fans.
I need to see it, mate. And again, another fan base that if you win them over, they adore you out there. Right. They will love you.
Why do you think Osimhen's staying at Galatasaray?
Funnily enough, Laurie, that leads me on to my next category today, which is Napoli have rejected the Osimhen bid from Galatasaray. 47.3. It's a little bit cheeky, that, considering that the Saudis are standing there going, hello, we've got 75 mil. We're happy to give it to you, please. And Osimhen's going, you lot just move, man. He's almost at this stage saying to Galatasaray, come on, put up a proper offer and I'll stay. He won't
mind
I'll tell
you why as well, right? Because I've seen a couple of videos, you may well have seen them as well, circulating online, of the love. I mean, I saw one video in particular, you probably saw it, where there's a couple of fans who waylay in a nice way, by the way. Osimhen, one of them wanted his shirt signed, and the guy literally burst into tears upon meeting Osimhen. You know what I mean? Now, if you're a player and you're getting that kind of love, you know what I mean? You're thinking to yourself, man, these fans, and he's had a really good season there as well.
You're right.
You're thinking, why would I want to leave this?
I can give you a bit of insight as well, because I was with my Turkish friend in Liverpool. We had a barbecue at the weekend at his house. Shout out to Altug, what a guy. And he's a big Fenerbahce fan. So we were actually talking about the Jose Mourinho factor. He was saying, well, John Duran, like, what can we expect? And he was talking about Osimhen, and he said, I hope he leaves Galatasaray. He said the league is too easy for him.
I've heard that being said.
That he is so much more than the Turkish league. Again, this is a Turkish league fan telling me this. It's not a shot at Turkish league, the quality. But he cannot wait for someone to go and buy well, obviously he has gone back to Napoli, but he's praying that Galatasaray don't sign him again because he destroyed them last season.
With regards to Osimhen, I'm surprised he didn't go to Chelsea, because what I was told is that he's a big Chelsea fan, he's a big Drogba fan, and that he fancied that move. I think it's the wages, wasn't it? That,
Delap and Pedro. I mean, Jackson.
No, but I think initially he was seen as
I remember.
main choice.
Yeah.
But the negotiations broke down. I think there were some issues about the amount of money the deal would cost in terms of wages, and that.
And is it just totally done at Napoli? He can't go back to
Conte.
I
mean, he's had bad relations with him, and he's fallen out with him publicly.
And is there any way for them, though, that they can try and again, obviously Napoli are looking to get Darwin Núñez in, so maybe
I think that ship sailed, man. I think that ship. He had a very public fallout with him, didn't he? And you don't forget that. And he's gone to Galatasaray, and he's already become an instant legend there. They want him. Yeah.
43.7 though. He's probably worth about 60 or 70, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a very, very low ball offer.
It is.
Almost a little bit disrespectful. It's bordering on the edge of disrespectful.
He is a goal getter. There's no doubt about it.
He is. And obviously maintaining talks with Darwin Núñez, Luca there, also available.
Are you guys not interested in him? Because you need a striker.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same that I felt with Duran. If you know that he's available and he's leaving, chuck your hat in the ring. Make a phone call. John Duran, yes, he's given us a small sample size of his talent so far at Aston Villa, and I think he scored 12 goals, and all of a sudden he's at 80 mil signing. But if he was available on loan, maybe, why not? But Como, there's a knock-on effect to this, Laurie, because Lake Como FC are waiting for Galatasaray to sign a striker so that they can take Alvaro Morata away from Galatasaray, because again he's out there. So Como are waiting for them to sort their stuff out. Manchester United, Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho, Anthony, Malacia have been given extra time off to United to explore moves away. They've basically said, listen, don't bother coming back into school this year. Go and find some course. Go and sort your life out. But they are expected to go in with an improved offer of 65 up front for Bryan Mbeumo. I mean, all of those players have got very, very hot phones right now, and that's not because they're on the beach. Well, they probably are, physically and mentally, but they need to start making some moves happen, because at the minute Rashford has almost sold himself to every big club in Europe, and all of them are going, nah, we're good, you know.
I did hear today, no doubt you heard the same thing, there's another renewed speculation around him going to Barca.
Yeah, but isn't it more him being interested in them than them being interested? You know, they're calling him, but they're not really having a big conversation. I'm not sure, but Rashford there.
He was quite clever a couple of weeks ago, isn't it? Dropping Lamine, what's his name?
Lamine Yamal.
Yeah, name dropping him. Oh, I'd love to play with him, and then all of a sudden there was that speculation around that. That was quite clever.
Yeah,
but whether
I see
it'll work
through it
out
though, Laurie. I see through it all.
Yeah.
For me, I see through that. But listen, him, Sancho, Garnacho, Anthony, Malacia, they all need moves ASAP. And
I think Anthony will stay at Betis, won't he?
No, he's only on loan.
No, but I think
they can't afford him.
Oh, really?
Can't afford him.
I was being told that they might renew that.
I know, but United want. He's on massive wages.
Yeah, but will he might, again, I'm going to use the word humble. He might have to humble himself.
Again, a lot of these, pretty much all of these lads need to humble themselves, really.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them. Even though he did have a great spell at Betis, obviously. And they're trying to bring Mbeumo through the door as well. But on Arsenal, I did see a leaked picture of Christian Norgard at the London Colney training ground today, having some pictures taken. It looks like that'll be announced maybe tomorrow.
That's going to get done.
Medical done, contract signed, official statement to follow. And that's after Kepa, Zubimendi, and hopefully for Arsenal fans, Gyökeres. Are you still... If the pendulum was swinging, Sesko this side, Gyökeres this side.
Well, we're being led to believe as Arsenal
now,
fans that it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah.
I expect that signing to happen, and I expect him to go on our pre-season tour coming up at the end of this month. And if we do get him, which I suspect we will, I think that's a tremendous signing. I really do. I think that's a needle mover.
Madueke on the table, Eze still on the table.
I'm not sure about that. But Gyökeres is a potential needle mover. I mean, if he gets half the goals for Arsenal that he got for Sporting last year,
you're laughing.
Then we're smiling, man.
Absolutely. Just tuned in. Glad to have you back, AGT. You Never Walk Alone says Guehi 17 as well. Big up to him. 2,000 of you watching, by the way. Just over. And that's 258 likes.
Yeah, we need to get them likes. That's
Come
only one in,
on. Now,
it's only one in
people.
4. Come on, man.
Come on, guys. No, it's less than that, mate.
Well, slightly less.
It's like 0.4.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so. My maths isn't great, but 256 out of 2,000.
Yours.
That's like 1%, isn't it?
Yeah, because
get the likes up, man.
Yeah,
come on. Do it.
1,000 is a quarter. Yeah, 1 in 4.
We'll finish on this one. Leeds closing in on a deal to sign Sean Longstaff from Newcastle with personal terms agreed. 10 million plus 2 million in add-ons. Good move for all parties.
Yeah, decent sign.
But you would be gutted if you're Longstaff, though, wouldn't you?
I mean, hear me out on this, right? So with these clubs that are coming up, I always think that what they tend to do is, so for example, Burnley, they've got Kyle Walker in, which is, I think that's a good move. But I also think that these clubs that are coming up, what is the one thing that these clubs always fall down on?
Or the lack of Premier League experience in their lineups.
Or the lack of goals up top. Because you need, in order to win matches in the Premier League, you need to score goals. That's what's going to keep you up. And what I've noticed about a lot of the teams that come up, they very rarely tend to really throw everything at getting a striker in that's going to get you those goals. So it's all right packing the team with experienced, solid players like Longstaff is, defensive midfielders, defenders, but you need somebody up top that's going to get you goals because you need to win matches. That's what's going to keep you up. So,
who can they? Because I guess the pool is fairly slim, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you can guarantee them Premier League football. You can start every Premier League game. That's pretty good guaranteed. But they're almost looking at the pool of strikers that might be on the fringes at a Fulham, at a Liverpool, or looking at strikers that maybe aren't preferred.
Or they might have to be creative. Maybe, scout the European system or, South America, wherever it is.
Because with all due respect to Patrick Bamford, and I know I've got a very close Leeds mate who said if we start a Premier League game with him up front in 2025-26, then I need to
listen. I can remember when Patrick Bamford was at Chelsea. He's never been that guy in terms of scoring goals. He's a good, honest player, but you know what I'm saying,
right?
If you're going to stay in this Premier League, which let's face it it's like a league like no other. You need to win games, and the only way you're going to do that is by scoring goals. And if you've not got anyone in your team you can rely on to get goals, you're up against it.
Yeah.
So it's very well and good signing the likes of Kyle Walker, and that's fine. But who have you got up top? Can they score goals?
No, that's true. It's back to basics. Shout out to everyone who told me my maths was awful, and it is. That's why I do this for a living, to be honest, because maths, science at school, definitely not my forte. It's actually around about 12%. So what I was talking about was an absolute load of waffle. Just ignore me. Right.
Some people would say that the only mathematics skill you need is counting. When you get that money, you know how to count it.
Take with the left, give out with the right. That's what we do. Right, Laurie, thanks for joining me on this episode of my first one back. It's been a pleasure.
Man,
We've had a good chat, haven't we?
Good to see you smiling again, man.
Yeah, took a while, but we're getting there, man. It's a process, you know it. Smash that like button, people, and don't forget, we're back, aren't we? 7:30 tonight. Chelsea versus Palmeiras.
No,
Fluminense.
Is it Fluminense or Fluminense? Or Fluminense?
In Brazilian or Portuguese, you would pronounce it as Fluminense.
Oh, is it?
But Fluminense is maybe the European way.
Who are you going for?
Oh, Flu. All day long, baby. I don't want Chelsea to win a Club World Cup. I'm
going to say this,
champion
for
of the
the
world.
tournament, I think, the organised, I don't know. What do you think?
I want Fluminense to win.
I think a lot of people out there want Fluminense to win because the South American fans are going to bring that excitement and quality.
100%. So we've got a stream for that tonight.
In terms of a marquee matchup or a sexy matchup, Chelsea versus Madrid is a final that people are talking about. But PSG as well. I mean, in many ways, that should have been the final, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and don't forget, we've got Fluminense versus Chelsea tonight at 7:30 for you. We also tomorrow have the PSG versus Real Madrid.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
FIFA Club World Cup semi-final watch along. We're going to have Stu and Raul in the studio as well. Ty's on tonight as well, by the way. And once we all get around the table with Ty, it's always magic.
Did you see him and Ty and Raul?
Yeah, I did. I was on Raul's side for that one, mate. I
was trying to mediate, but Ty, I couldn't get a word in. But, they were going at it.
Yeah, they were, weren't they? Big time. But he'll be back tonight, so keep an eye out for the channel at 7:30. And we'll be back at 7:30, like I said. So, Laurie.
Nice one, Ben.
Nice one, Geezer.
Respect.
Myself, AGT, signing out. Take care. We'll see you soon.